Per capita is a particular way of writing a ratio, and what it really means is per person. So when we're getting into this, you want to kind of think of the per as the fraction bar. So if I'm talking about TVs per capita, I can write that as a ratio where I put my number of TVs on my numerator, per is the fraction bar, and capita means per person. So I'm really trying to find the number of TVs per person. That's what per capita means, and it's simply a ratio. Now, it does generally mean per one person, so after you write your ratio, you're going to want to simplify that ratio as much as, down to a decimal where your denominator is 1. So let's look at the application here. So we have an example of 200 million Skittles are produced each day. Skittles. And the U.S. population is approximately 324 million. The ratio of Skittles to people, which also would be Skittles per capita, would be what? So we're putting Skittles in the numerator, people on the bottom. So Skittles, there's 200 million Skittles produced and 324 million people. Well, hopefully you recognize they're both in millions. Since those are the same units, they can go away, and we're left with just 200 over 324. But that's not per capita. Per capita means per one person. So I'm going to divide that. Numerator divided by the denominator, and I end up with 0.62 Skittles per person produced each day. All right. Let's go to M&Ms. Same exact concept. 400 million M&Ms produced each day. Let's go ahead and find the number of M&Ms produced daily per capita. So now we're talking about M&Ms over per person, right? So we have 400 million M&Ms, and we have same population as above, which would be 324 million. So same beautiful things happen where these millions go away, and I'm left with 400 over 324. So when I divide numerator divided by the denominator, they produce 1.23 M&Ms per person per day. So slightly more M&Ms produced, I should say slightly more, they produce double the amount of M&Ms, but in terms of per person, so if you're not eating one M&M a day, you are not eating your allotment. Number 2. The National Center for Education Statistics says the state of Indiana spent $9.97 billion on K-12 students in the 14-15 school year. So that's a lot of money, $9.97 billion. If there were 105 million K-12 students, find the amount spent per student. So we're talking amount per student. Okay, so I have 9.97 billion over 1.05 million. Okay, well, million and billion are not the same, so I can't just cross them out. But I know that billion means times 10 to the 9th, and million means times 10 to the 6th. So that makes this problem a little bit easier to work with. I can divide out my numbers, and I'm going to round, so I have 9.495 times 10 to the, let's subtract our exponents and get times 10 to the 3rd. Well, again, we're talking about money. So if you're talking about money, you don't talk scientific notation. So 3 decimal places, 1, 2, 3. That means Indiana spends $9,495 per student. Okay, that's in Indiana. Right. I want to specify Indiana because the next one is Illinois. Same basic problem. If they spend 28.54 billion and they have 2.05 million, what do they spend per student? Well, 28.54 billion over 2.05 million. Again, billion and million are not the same, obviously. You're a whole letter off. So billion is 9, million is 6. I'm going to go ahead and just leave them as is. I'm going to divide those numbers and get 13.922 times 10 to the 3rd. When I change that to standard form, 3 decimals, so I move it 3 places. Illinois spends $13,922 per student in that same academic year. So, Indiana spends $94.95. Illinois spends $13,922. If we compare those, well, if I subtract Illinois minus Indiana, I get $44.27. So one sentence I could use would be, Illinois spends $4,427 more per student than Indiana. Or I could do it the other way and say Indiana spends $4,427 less per student than Illinois. The key there is per student. We found a per student value, so we need to keep that per student value in our answer. So just something to keep in mind when you're comparing. Make sure you're using as much information as possible, including the per student. You're using your states. You're quantifying your answer by using a number. All of those things are important when using your meaningful sentences.